So for our first topic for human anatomy, physiology with pathophysiology, it's about the human organism. So for our introduction, what lies ahead is an outstanding adventure, learning about the structure and function of the human body and the intricate checks and balances that regulate it. Knowing human anatomy and physiology is also the basis for understanding disease. The study of human anatomy and physiology is important for you students who plan a career in the health sciences, specifically medical laboratory science or medical technology. Because as you become health professionals, you need a sound knowledge of structure and function in order to perform your duties. In addition, understanding anatomy and physiology prepares all of us to evaluate recommended treatments, critically review advertisements, and review in the popular literature, and rationally discuss the human body with health professionals and non-professionals. So, pwede nating, sa public health, pwede tayong magturo about public health. Ituturo natin kung ano yung mga pwede nilang makuhang disease kung ginagawa nila to or how to prevent these diseases. You, as a students pa lang, importante yung human anatomy and physiology na pag-aralan nyo kasi magiging backbone nyo talaga to. You really need to understand first how the body works normally para malaman nyo kung paano nagkakaroon ng mga sakit na ganito, mga iba't ibang sakit, paano nagkakaroon, gano'n. So, kailangan nyo munang malaman kung ano yung normal before na malaman nyo yung mga abnormal. And human anatomy and physiology is magiging big backbone or background nyo to, lalong-lalo na sa third year nyo, pag na-encounter nyo na lahat ng mga professional subjects nyo, lahat ng mga lalabas din sa board exams nyo, sa immunoserology, blood bank, microbiology, parasitology, lahat ng mga professional subjects nyo na matatakol nyo sa third year ninyo. At yung mga subjects na matatakol nyo sa third year ninyo is yun yung yun yung lalabas na exams ninyo sa board exam. So, as ano din, as health professionals, like us, sa setting natin, sa pag-professional na tayo, pag-professional na kayo, sa medtech na kayo, nagwo-work na kayo sa lab, kasi madami kayong pwedeng puntahan eh. Pwede din, like me, instructor. So, naging background ko din talaga tong human anatomy and physiology. I really, really need to study human anatomy and physiology talaga kapag gusto mong maintindihan how your body works at paano ka nagkaroon ng sakit na naman. You will appreciate it talaga kapag madidiscuss natin lahat ng mga topics natin and then pag napunta kayo sa third year para malaman nyo kung paano nangyari ang mga bagay-bagay sa katawan nyo. And then, sa mga, sa ano naman, sa clinical setting naman, kapag nasa laboratory kayo, pwede nyong i-relate yung mga test na ginagawa nyo sa normal body function ninyo or sa function ng katawan ninyo. Kunwari may mga physician or may mga nurses na mali pala yung na-check na test, mga ganon. Hindi maiiwasan ng error sa work. Lalo na sa laboratory, kailangan din maingat tayo kasi hindi dapat tayo nagre-release ng maling result. That's a grave sin sa pagiging medtech natin. So, mahirap na baka sisihin tayo, mali naman ng iba. Kunwari, may mga physician or may mga nurses, hindi naman lahat pero may mga iba kasi, I have experience na mali pala yung test na i-check ng doktor, mga ganon. Nakalagay naman sa to consider niya na na may liver cirrhosis siya or may liver damage siya. So, kailangan, ang dapat na i-request na test niya is for liver function test. Tapos may mga test na naidagdag na hindi naman kailangan para sa liver. Mga ganon. Or kaya may iba pala yung na-check ni doc or ni nurse. Iba yung na-check niya. So, you really need to confirm sa kanila kung yun ba talaga yung test na ipapagawa. Because it doesn't make sense kung i-relate mo dun sa to consider na disease ng pasyente. So, we have here overview. Overview is, hinati-hati ko yung topic into 5 parts. I'll discuss first the definition of anatomy and physiology, and then pathophysiology, the structural and functional organization of the human body, the characteristics of the human organism, And the most important function ng body natin in normal state is the homeostasis and the language of anatomy, the terminologies in the body plan. So first, defining anatomy. So anatomy, according to Snell, in his published book in 2007, is the study of structure or shapes of the body and body parts and their relationship to one another. Ang sabi niya is structure by structure, what's their relationship with one another. And then Tortora defined anatomy in 2009 according to their suffixes or prefixes. So anatomy, ana means to dissect or to separate, and then tomi means to cut apart. And then according to Seeley, year 2014, his published book, it is the scientific discipline that investigates the body's structure, the relationship between these structures, and the function or functions of each. So, Seeley meant that ang anatomy daw is, yes, it investigates the body's structure and the relationship daw ng structure from each other. So, ano daw relationship ni urine, I mean ni ni kidney kay ureter, mga ganun yung sinasabi niya. Tapos dinagdagan niya ng kung ano yung itsura daw, kung ano daw yung structure nung certain organ na yun is related daw sa function. For example, yung bone natin, it has a mineralized structure. Yung puti, di ba? Our bone is white. Yung puting yun, that's a mineralized chemical, nanigas siyang chemical ah nanigas siyang chemical. And then yung sa internal structure din niya, meron siyang structure na bony din, 'di ba? O kaya calcified din. Ibig sabihin nun, kung ganun katigas yung structure, so para saan siya? Ibig sabihin, pwede siya for support and strength, ganon. So, yun, nire-relate niya ngayon yung structure ng body sa magiging function nito. Be careful with this kasi pwede siyang malito kayo kung ano ang anatomy and physiology. Physiology is the science of body's function. I'll define it on the second part. I mean, on the latter. Um, we have here different levels of approach ng anatomy. Developmental anatomy studies the structural changes that occur between conception and adulthood. Structural changes between conception and adulthood. And then we have our subspecialty ng developmental anatomy, guys. Take note sa specialty of developmental anatomy, which considers changes from conception to the end of 8 week of development. Embryo means conception to the end of 8 week, 0 to 2 week of development ng embryo. Embryology study. And then we have, may mga maliliit din tayong small structures na hindi nakikita ng naked eye or ng two eyes natin, gamit lang ang two eyes natin. We have what we call microscopic anatomy with the use of microscope. From the word microscope, it is the study of body structures that are too small to be seen with the naked eye. We have study of the anatomy ng cell anatomy, iba pa rin cell anatomy sa cytology. So, cell is the study of cells. Lahat ng kung ano ang meron sa cells is the cytology. So, from the word cyte, which means cells, and ology means study, is the study of cells. And then we have histology, which means, his means tissues, and ology means study, which means study of tissues. And then we have here gross anatomy naman, which is the term used for examining the body parts or body structures macroscopically. So, ibig sabihin, hindi na natin kailangan ng microscope. Kailangan na lang natin ng two eyes and the hands. Okay, so gross anatomy is the study of structures that can be examined without the aid of microscope and can be approached either systemically or regionally. We have two basic approaches ng gross anatomy. We have the systemic anatomy and the regional anatomy. So, systemic anatomy is the study of group of structures or group of organs that have one or more common functions. So, ibig sabihin, mga nagsama-samang organs para bumuo ng nag-iisang function. One example is about urinary system. Urinary system is composed of different organs na gumagawa ng ihi or nagpo-produce ng ihi or nagsisecrete ng waste product na ihi. So, ibig sabihin, itong systemic anatomy is group ng organ. What I meant with group of organ is, tinawag siyang system kasi as a unit daw. Yung mga different organ na yun is na-consider siyang as a unit kasi pare-pareho yung function nila. So for our urinary system, from the word urinary system, ibig sabihin, nagproproduce sila ng waste product na urine, and these organs are these organs are the kidneys, urethra, the accessory organs. They produce, nagtutulong-tulong sila to produce the urine. Yun yung ibig sabihin niya. So when we say kidney lang, that's an organ. When we say urinary system, that is a systemic organ or organ system. And then we have another term, regional anatomy. Regional anatomy is the study of organization daw ng body by areas or region by region. So, paano daw organization ng body? So, parang area by area siya pinag-aaralan, region by region. I don't need to expand further about regional anatomy kasi hindi naman ganyan yung way na pagtuturo ko. Kasi ang gagawin ko is the systemic anatomy, which is dapat sa inyo kasi introductory pa lang. Mas madadali yung maintindihan ang anatomy physiology kapag systemic. So yung mostly common itong systemic anatomy in introductory textbook at sa inyong mga tinuturuan na ano pa lang, na nasa undergraduate pa lang. Itong regional anatomy kasi is para yan sa mga dentistry, sa mga nagme-med, or sa masters, mga postgraduate. And then we have here, wait lang. We have here general ways to examine internal structures naman daw. So how do we examine internal structures? Diba? Meron tayong, wait lang. Kasi gross anatomy is internal structure din pala kapag internal gross anatomy. Ito pala, general ways to examine internal structures. Ito yung mga non-invasive. So, hindi kailangan ng surgery. Itong gross anatomy kasi, kailangan ng surgery talaga. And then these surface anatomy and anatomical imaging, non-invasive sila. So, ibig sabihin, they don't need to cut open the body para i-investigate ang internal organs. So, surface anatomy, from the word surface, sa surface lang. Yung surface lang yung titignan nila or kakapain nila para ma-picture yung or ma-imagine yung internal organs. So, it involves looking at the exterior of the body to visualize structures deeper inside the body. Example, kapag gusto mong pakinggan yung, pakiramdaman yung heartbeat mo, di ba, nilalagay mo sa sternum or sa chest bone mo yung yung kamay mo to pakiramdaman yung beat ng heart mo. Or the palpation. Palpation naman usually ginagamit natin kapag sine-check natin yung pulse natin sa wrist. Ayun, nararamdaman nyo, di ba? Usually, pag palpation naman, pwede ding yan, ginagamit ng mga RT to locate the arterial na kukuhanan ng ng arterial vessel na kukuhanan ng arterial blood for our arterial blood gases. And then we have, we call that palpation pala kapag pinapakiramdaman mo yung pulse mo sa wrist or pinapakiramdaman mo yung tunog ng heartbeat mo. And then we have another example ng surface anatomy. Yung papakinggan ng doctor through stethoscope yung tunog ng ng heart mo or yung breathing mo. Then we have anatomical imaging, which is the non-invasive method din na use radiographs sa X-ray, ultrasound, magnetic resonance imaging, and other technologies to create pictures of internal organs. So, from the word anatomical and imaging means na pipicture yung internal organs mo without usually cutting the body apart. Cutting the body open. Okay? Then we have here Wilhelm Röntgen, which is the first medical scientist daw to use the X-rays to see inside the body. So he was a scientist during the years 1845 to 1923. We have your example ng anatomical imaging, X-ray. Basahin nyo na lang, baka lumabas sa exam. Ay, baka lang naman. There's siguro 2% chance na lalabas siya. But, huwag nyo nang i-memorize kasi 2% lang naman. Basahin nyo na lang. Basta make yourself familiar sa mga terms na to. So, we have X-ray, ultrasound, computed tomography, or CT scan. Guys, you need to take note. That's part ng examples ng anatomical imaging. And then we have digital subtraction angiography or DSA, magnetic resonance imaging or what we call the MRI. And then we have position emission tomography or PET. Next, let's define physiology. Sabi ni Tortora noong 2009, it is the science of body functions. Hep, take note. Kasi ang sabi ni Silly naman kay kay anatomy is relationship ng structure sa function, ha? Hindi science of body function. May ibang definition si Silly sa physiology. So, physio means nature and ology means study according din kay Tortora. So, ito naman kay Silly, ang sabi niya, the scientific investigation of processes or functions daw ng living organisms, specifically the human. So, ang sabi niya, sabi niya, ang major goal daw ng when studying the physiology is to understand and predict the body's responses to stimuli and to understand how the body maintains conditions within a narrow range of values in a constantly changing environment. So, dinefine niya na kung ano ang homeostasis. So, physiology means, paano daw nagpa-function ang katawan at paano na-maintain ng katawan ang normal state niya. Yun yung sabi niya. Paano daw nagre-respond ang katawan kapag na-stimulate, kapag may stimuli, kapag nasa danger, ganon. Paano daw nagre-react and paano daw nagpa-function ng katawan kapag may certain analytes na tumaas, parang sa glucose, ganun. Paano kapag napadami ka ng intake na glucose or na sugar, ganun, bigla ka bang magkaka-diabetes or may gagawin ba muna yung katawan? Mga ganong bagay. I'll explain it mamaya sa mechanisms ng human organism. Additional pala, there is what we call anatomical anomaly. Anomaly, from the word anomalies, ibig sabihin, anatomical anomalies are physical characteristics that differ from the normal pattern. There are anatomical anomalies that can vary in severity from relatively harmless to life-threatening. Ibig sabihin, ng anomalies is pagkakaiba. So, may mga tao na may iba yung structure. May ibang tao din na hindi nagkaiba yung structure. Meron ding mga tao na magkakapareho. May magkakapareho tayo ng structures ng internal organ and meron ding times na hindi. Pero pwede siyang mag-cause ng normal function at pwede din siyang magkaroon ng abnormal function. Example, may mga tao na nag-iisang blood vessel lang ang nagsusupply sa sa kidney. Meron din mga tao na may dalawang blood vessel na nagsusublay sa kidneys nila. We have what we call blue baby. Wait, let me write that. Blue baby. That's what we call blue baby. Blue baby syndrome. Yan. Blue baby syndrome or pwede ring tawagin na wait lang. Methemoglobin. Ayan. We have what we call methemoglobinemia or the blue baby syndrome. Kasi meron sa infant that may certain blood vessels daw na na-attach na dapat naka-attach sa heart. Dapat nakaka-touch sa correct place. Dapat may certain place ang blood vessel na nagsusupply ng blood sa heart. Ngayon, sa blue baby syndrome is yung blood vessel is yung dadaluyan ng dugo, okay? Veins, arteries, it includes veins. Ang blood vessel natin is include of veins, arteries. Ayan. So, dyan dadaan yung dugo natin. Ngayon daw, kay methemoglobinemia or blue baby syndrome, yung infant daw, mali yung pinaglagyan ng blood vessel niya. Hindi daw siya nakasakto sa heart. Ngayon, saan dadaan si blood? Eh, ang heart, nagpapump siya ng blood para mag-supply sa buong katawan. Ngayon, si blood, hindi siya na-supply masyado. Parang sabihin natin hindi naman lack kasi pag kung hindi na siya dumaan talaga sa heart is mamamatay na talaga yun kasi kailangan ng supply ng dugo sa buong katawan natin. At ang blood natin dumadaan sa dugo kasi ang blood natin dumadaan sa heart para i-pump siya throughout our body. Eh ngayon itong si hemoglobinemia, mali daw yung pinaglagyan ng blood vessel kay heart na naka-attach kay heart. So ibig sabihin, minimal yung dumadaan na blood. Eh ngayon, minimal na yung pinapump na blood ngayon ng blood minimal na yung blood na pinapump ng heart sa buong katawan. So ang mangyayari, there will be a decrease um, supply of blood sa buong katawan. Eh, anong meron sa blood? Meron siyang oxygen. Our blood delivers oxygen throughout our body. Ngayon, ang mangyayari din, meron ting bababa din yung hemoglobin ng baby. Hemoglobin is wait lang, hemoglobin is ganito. That's ano pala, shortcut. So, wait lang. Ayan. So ang blood natin is may hemoglobin at may oxygen. Hemoglobin is nagbibigay ng kulay kay blood. And then we have blood nagde-deliver siya ng oxygen sa buong katawan. Ngayon, doon lumalabas yung tinatawag na blue baby. Blue baby siya kasi nagkukulay blue daw yung baby. So ngayon nagte-turn ng bluish red ang skin ng baby kasi nga ang nagfo-flow na sa kanya is ah bluish bluish red na yung dugo niya. Tapos kulang pa ng supply ng dugo. So ngayon ang nangyayari is sa skin ng baby, nag-a-appear siyang blue dahil sa gawa ng bluish red na nga yung dugo na dumadaloy. Tapos kulang pa. Parang ang nakikita na doon is yung muscles or yung mga pangalan nito, yung mga susunod na I mean yung mga ugat-ugat na ni baby. So, ang kulay pala ng ugat is nasa bluish green din. So, parang kaya siya tinawag na bluish green. Tapos, nagkakaroon ng ah hirap sa paghinga si baby. Ganon. Yun din pala. Kasi, hindi na nade-deliver ng maayos ang oxygen sa buong katawan. Kasi mababa ang supply ng blood. Okay, that's all. Hmm. Okay? So, kung may terms tayo or may levels of approach tayo sa anatomy, syempre, meron din sa physiology. These are some, not all, but some na important na gagamitin natin. We have cell physiology, which examines the processes occurring in the cells. So, hindi na anatomy ha, cell physiology. Kung ano na raw yung normal na nangyayari sa structures or organelles ng cell natin or kung ano na yung function ng cell natin. Then we have systemic physiology, yung mga normal function ng systems natin, considers the functions of organ systems. And then we have neurophysiology from the word neuro. It focuses on the nervous system function, function ng nervous system natin. And then we have cardiovascular from the word cardio and vascular. Cardio means heart, vascular means vessels. From the word vessels, cardio means heart. From the word vessels, vascular. So cardiovascular deals with the heart and blood vessels function, normal function. And human physiology, which means study of human organisms, function. Okay. The next, we have pathophysiology, the additional sa annotation natin. Usually, wala yan nun eh. Hindi ko alam kung kailan siya nag-start na nagkaroon ng pathophysiology. Dati annotation lang. Now, nadagdagan ng pathophysiology, which is really good kasi parang magkakaroon na kayo ng background about diseases na pwedeng mangyari sa katawan. So, parang ah pag narinig nyo na yung mga diseases sa third year, magkakaroon na kayo ng idea. Siyempre, may mga dapat pabibo, ganon. Para alam nyo yung mga isasagot nyo sa mga teachers nyo, ha? Tapos, pathophysiology. So, what's patho? Pathology, study of patho. Pathology means medical science dealing with all aspects of disease. Okay, patho means disease ha, presence of disease. Tapos ology study. So it's pathology, this is the medical science dealing with all aspects of diseases with an emphasis on the cause and development of abnormal conditions, as well as the structural and functional changes resulting from disease. So it's all about disease. And then, so pag pinuon natin ng pathophysiology, sabi niya, it seeks to provide an understanding of mechanism of disease and how and why alterations in the body structure and function lead to the signs and symptoms of disease. So parang i-relate natin ngayon from the normal function ng katawan, bakit siya nagkaroon ng disease na ganito? Ano yung nangyari? Ano yung nag-disrupt sa proper function? Ganon. Yun yung pathophysiology. So, later on, may mga part na magbibigay ako ng examples ng pathophysiologic case. Basta, pag may ma-encounter tayo na makaka-relate ako, basta sabihan ko kayo. And take note, these case studies can, pwedeng lumabas sa exams ninyo. So, you really, really need to listen and read books too para mas maintindihan nyo. Then we have the term etiology and pathogenesis. So etiology means refers to the study of causes of a mental or physical disease. Ibig sabihin etiology, saan nanggaling? Bakit nagkaroon ng ganitong sakit? Anong nangyari? Excuse me. Anong nangyari? Saan siya nanggaling? Paano siya nagkasakit ng ganito? Paano niya na-acquire, mga ganon. And then we have etiological factors. From the word factors, ano yung pwedeng i-consider bakit siya nagkaroon ng sakit na ganito? So etiological factors are considered as necessary conditions for the development of disease. Bakit daw siya nagka-develop ng ganitong disease? So is it genetic? Is it by infection? Is it by chemical? Kung sinabi natin genetic abnormalities, ibig sabihin naman na niya nasa genes na. Kunwari, meron yung parents niyang sakit na diabetes, pwedeng mamana ng mga anak, mga ganon, or kaya nanggaling sa lola, ganon, pwedeng wala sa parents, pero nanggaling pala sa grandparents. So, it's either inherited or acquired. So, from the means genetic, inherited is yung namana, and then acquired. Acquired is nasa genes niya, habang nasa sinapupunan siya, habang nagde-develop siya, nagkaroon ng mali sa replication or translation or transcription ng genes mo. Tapos doon nagkamali, nagkaroon ng abnormal function. Ngayon, nung pinanganak ka, ah, nagkaroon ka ngayon ng sakit na hindi naman galing sa magulang mo, pero nagkaroon ka ng sakit sa genes. Nagkaroon ng mali sa genes. Okay, sa paggawa ng genes. Acquired, or pwedeng tawagin yun na congenital. Yung ano, yung habang nasa sinapupunan, yung bata is nagkakaroon na, nagde-develop na pala siya ng genetic defect. So we have here another infection by microorganism. Example, bacteria, viruses, parasites, or fungi na nagkakos ng infection. And then we have chemicals, benzidine that can cause cancer. Also, saline. Kaya pinagbabawal tayo minsan na ma-expose masyado sa ibang chemicals kasi cancerous sila. When inhaled or exposed physically, pwede siyang mag-cause ng cell death. Ngayon, ang mangyayari, paano ba? Ano, mababali yung ano, yung cell. Yung internal organ ng cell. Internal organs of the cell is called organelles. Yung organelles may nangyari daw doon. So, nasira siya. Ngayon, yung function din niya, sira na, abnormal na yung function niya. Siyempre, si buong cell, as organelle siya ng isang cell, magiging abnormal din yung function niya. Kasi, anything na na-disrupt, any organelle na na-disrupt sa, sa cell is magkakos din ng malfunction or um, abnormal function sa cell. Kasi lahat ng organelle ng cell ay may kanya-kanyang work or kanya-kanyang function. Isa lang ang masira doon is maapektuhan na yung buong function ng cell. So ngayon, itong mga chemicals na cancerous na to, also ionizing radiation ha, they can also affect like this na madidisrupt yung cell's function. Siyempre, ang cell, later on, mapag-aaralan natin kung paano ba nabubuo ang cell at para saan ba ang cell. Why do we call cell is a basic unit of life? Kasi cell is, our body is composed of cells. So, dumadami yung cells para makabuo ng isang organ. Ngayon, yung different organs din is makakabuo ng organ system. And then, our organ system is makakabuo ng organism. Organism is us, human. So ngayon, we have here physical trauma din. Merong pwedeng itanong nila, is it from physical trauma? May pasa ba na galing sa physical trauma or galing siya sa vehicular accident na untog siya, ganon. And then we have here physical trauma, may mga pwedeng i-consider, pwedeng hindi i-consider physical trauma, lalo na kung sasabihin ng patient wala namang bumugbog sa kanya pero nagkapasa siya. So ngayon, iisipin nila how paano siya nagkaroon ng pasa kung wala naman siyang, hindi naman daw siya nabugbog, hindi naman daw siya nauntog, or whatever na physical trauma. We have what we call the leukemia, which is a cancer of the blood, di ba? There may magiging abnormal sa sa cell. So parang magkakaroon ng cancer sa blood cells. Ngayon specifically red blood cells, mga ganon na nagkukos ng pasapasa, di ba? May mga leukemic patient is may mga pasapasa sila. Yun. So kailangan i-consider pa rin yun kung nauntog ba siya, ganon. Or kung hindi, syempre kailangan nilang itest yung blood niya. Then we have degeneration, lalo na ng cells. So excessive use or aging. Our cell is may lifespan siya na 120 days. After 120 days natapos niya na yung function niya, pwede na siyang mag-apoptosis. Apoptosis is normal death ng cell. So parang magsusuicide ang cell kasi tapos na yung function niya. And yun yung normal. And then we have degeneration na bigla na lang mamamatay kasi nga may mali sa function ng cell. Then we have pathogenesis. So pathogenesis is the development of disease and the chain of events leading to that disease. The progress of disease showing its morphological features or that leads to the disease state. So pathogenesis from neurogenesis is the paano pa nag-develop yung disease. Morph. Paano nag-develop yung disease? Paano pa ba? Ano pa yung mga event? Bakit nangyari yung mga ganito? And then yung features niya. Ano pa ba? Paano siya napunta sa state na ganun? Paano lumala ng ganun? Ganun yung sense ng pathogenesis. Then we have other terminologies here. We have inflammation. This is the tissue response to any kind of tissue damage, such as trauma or infection. Inflammatory conditions are recognized by the suffix itis. So take note, parating lalabas sa mga inflammation, itis na yan. Basta may itis, we call it inflammation of the. Tapos magbe-base kayo sa first word. Uh, appendix, from the word appendix, and then it is inflammation of the appendix. Mga ganon. Ano pa bang mga ma-intestines? Bronchitis, infection or inflammation of the bronchi. Tonsillitis, inflammation or infection of tonsils. Then we have tumors. Tumors, these arise when abnormal cells escape body surveillance and proliferate. The rate of their production exceeds that of normal cells. Normal cell death, causing a mass to develop. Tumors are recognized by the suffix "oma", carcinoma. Carcinoma is we call the cancer cells. Ano pa ba? Myoma. Ano pa? Basta yung myoma, that's what you call cancer. May mga cancer na malignant, na dangerous, na untreatable, and then we have benign. Benign is pwedeng tanggalin lang, tapos hindi na siya kumakalat. Kasi malignant is kumakalat yung cancerous na cell. So tumors is ano din, yun yung mga namumuo, 'di ba? May mga buo-buo daw na tinatanggal parang sa sa PCOS. PCOS is pwedeng cancerous or pwedeng hindi, pwedeng malignant or benign. So tumors, ngayon ang nangyayari, kung bakit ba nangyayari ng ganun. So ganun tayo sa anatomy and physiology ha, paano nangyayari yun? Paano nagkakaroon ng tumors, ganun. So paano nga ba nagkakaroon ng tumors? Ang cell daw na kunwari, ano bang example? Ayun, sa kunwari, ang cell death ng cell, pag sinabi kong nagkakaroon ng cancer din dun sa xylene or sa benzidine, can cause cancer. O na-expose kunwari ang isang tao sa benzidine or hexadine in a long period of time. Parati siyang nakaka-inhale, ganon. So ngayon, ang nangyari is nagkaroon ng abnormal function si cell. Ngayon, ang nangyari is um, abnormal na yung function ng cell. Ngayon, hindi na siya maka-function. Ngayon, nag-self-suicide siya kasi hindi niya na alam kung ano yung gagawin niya. So, merong mga cells na sabay-sabay na namatay, tapos pamumuo sila. Ngayon, ang gagawin nila is magagawa sila ng aggregate, magkukumpul-kumpul sila. Kapag, imagine niyo if you are familiar with chia seeds, di ba? Kapag nailagay sa tubig, tapos hindi siya naihalo, long standing siya, mamumuo siya. So, ganun yung mangyayari sa mga namatay na cells. Mamumuo sila hanggang sa bubuo sila ng isang mass, magiging solid sila. Yun na yung tumor. Okay? And then we have abnormal immune mechanisms. These are responses of the normally protective immune system that cause undesirable effects. So magiging abnormal ang immune mechanism, ang function ng immunity mo kapag may HIV. HIV is human immunodeficiency virus. So if from the word immunodeficiency, yung immunity mo is deficient, bumaba yung immunity mo. Ngayon, ang mangyayari sa HIV is nagkaroon siya ng abnormal sa immunity niya. Ngayon, kapag may infection, lalo na kasagsagan ng COVID, mabilis mahawa ang may HIV. Mabilis din siyang magkaroon ng infection kasi nga bumaba ang immunity niya. Ibig sabihin, bumaba ang panlaban niya sa katawan. Then we have what we call thrombosis, embolism, and infarction. So these are effects and consequences of abnormal changes in the blood or blood vessel walls. We have thrombosis. Thrombosis is yung pagclot ng dugo dahil sa pagdami ng platelets. So magkakaroon ng aggregation o pamumuo sa blood vessel. Therefore, and then we have embolism. Clot din. Embolism is pwedeng pamumuo ng blood clots sa blood vessels. Or bubbles, nagkaroon ng bubbles. Kapag nag-inject na may bubbles, ganun magkakaroon ng bubbles. So therefore, kung may bubbles, mapablock yung flow ng dugo. Kung masyadong malaki yung clot or masyadong malaki yung bubbles, mali na yung yung pag mag-flow ng dugo or mag-stop yung flow ng dugo. That's what we call infarction. Nag-stop daw yung pag-flow ng dugo. Ngayon, ang mangyayari sa infarction is mamamatay yung tissue o yung organ. Kasi kailangan ng organs, lahat ng organs kailangan nila ng blood para may pagkukuhanan sila ng nutrients. Ganon ka-importante ang cell or ang blood cells natin kasi sila yung nagde-deliver ng nutrients sa buong katawan natin. Ngayon, kung walang dadaan na blood cells, saan kukuha ang organ mo ng dugo, ng nutrients, di ba? O so, habang tumatagal, pag wala pa siyang nakukuhang dugo, mamamatay na yung organ o magkakaroon na siya ng malfunction. Then we have degeneration. This is often associated with normal aging but also arise prematurely when structures deteriorate, causing impaired function. So degeneration, pwedeng cell death, pwede ding cell death from a normal function or cell death dahil may abnormal function si cell or pwedeng our cells din kasi para din siyang tayo na nagde-develop. There is what we call differentiation. From itong cell, pwede siyang maging ganitong cell. So, parang kunwari, yung single cell, pwede siyang maging WBC, pwede siyang maging RBC. Ngayon, hindi na siya differentiate or hindi na siya pwedeng maka-develop ng RBC or WBC kasi nga sa certain cell na to is may nangyari ng malfunction, may nangyari ng abnormal sa organelles niya. Ganon. So, nagde-degenerate siya. Pwede ding hindi, so from, basta yun, basta nagde-generate yung mga cells natin or yung tissues natin. Then we have metabolic abnormalities. This cause terrible metabolic effects. What is our metabolites? Sodium, potassium, we have also glucose. So sa glucose, yung metabolite natin na glucose. So kapag increase intake of sugar for the long time, magkakaroon ng diabetes mellitus. Pwedeng diabetes can be acquired. Acquired means is madedevelop siya. Syempre sa increased consumption ng sugar for the long time, magkakaroon talaga ng diabetes mellitus. And mas mataas yung chance din na inherited din siya. Okay? So that's metabolic abnormality. So diabetes mellitus is magiging, sa ano pala kasi, sa diabetes mellitus is, ang pancreas natin is magkakaroon siya ng abnormality. Ang pancreas natin is nagsisecrete siya ng insulin. Ang insulin is siya yung nagde-deliver ng glucose. So, paano pa? Si pancreas, i-breakdown niya ngayon si sugar. Magiging glucose siya. Si glucose ngayon is dapat si insulin yung magde-deliver sa different cells ng body natin para i-deliver because glucose is used as source of energy ng katawan natin. And then, the excess the excess sugar dapat is nai-store sa kidneys, sa liver natin. Gagawin siya, i-convert siya into glycogen, which is the stored glucose natin. Parang i-store muna siya hanggang sa kailangan na ng katawan, saka siya ulit magiging glucose. Pero kay diabetes mellitus kasi, there is something wrong kay pancreas na hindi siya makaproduce ng insulin. Ngayon, ang mangyayari, ah hindi na hindi siya makaproduce ng insulin. So, si insulin, wala nang magde-deliver ng glucose sa iba't ibang parts ng katawan natin. Ngayon, mag-aano siya, magtataas ang nasa blood na lang siya. Nasa blood na lang si sugar. So ngayon ang ibig sabihin, tataas ang blood sugar natin sa dugo. Ngayon magkakaroon ng diabetes mellitus. Kasi hindi na siya na breakdown din na i-deliver ni insulin. And then we have genetic abnormalities from the word genes. May mali sa genes. They may be either inherited, usually inherited genetic abnormalities like phenylketonuria or by environmental factors such as exposure to ionizing radiation. Yun yung sinasabi ko. We have trisomy 13. So kapag habang nasa sinapupunan ka si mommy, kaya dapat ang pregnant mommies ay hindi dapat na-expose sa radiation kasi nga yun yung magkakaroon siya ng abnormality sa genes ng bata. Maapektuhan yung cells ng bata habang nagde-develop siya, which will cause ng, ano yung mga special child, yung mga ano, anong tawag na kasi doon? Ah, pwede ding autism, ganon. No, yun yung autism, magkakaroon ng autism, merong something wrong sa genes nila. Yung mga autism, mga autistic patients natin, may something wrong sa patients nila. Pwedeng yung mother is na-expose sa radiation, or kaya sa mga cancerous na chemicals, ganon. So, nagkakaroon ng mali sa function ng cell. Ayun. So, remember, cell is siya yung gumagawa ng genetic material. Sa kanya si DNA, silang gumagawa ng DNA, RNA, and so on. Then we have acute. Acute is a term sa disease na with sudden onset, often requiring urgent treatment. So, acute kapag biglang nagkaroon ng sakit na ganito or ganyan. We compared with chronic. So, chronic is a long-standing disorder which cannot usually be cured. So, ito yung sakit na matagal na pala. So, naging chronic na siya. And then we have acquired. Acquired kanina, sinabi ko na din yan, a disorder which develops anytime after birth. Compare with congenital. So, congenital, yung sinasabi kong congenital na habang nasa sinapupunan pa lang ni mommy, is nagkakaroon na siya ng sakit. Pero hindi siya genetika. Parang habang nasa sinapupunan, nagde-develop na. So, paglabas niya, doon na lumabas yung signs and symptoms ng sakit niya. And then we have acquired na pwedeng makuha sa labas, like TB, ganon. Tuberculosis. So, na-acquired siya, parang nahawa siya. So, nagkaroon siya ng sakit. And then we have, ayun, communicable din pala. Acquired and communicable is uh, magkaiba. So, acquired, paano ba? Kapag communicable kasi, kapag nahawa ka, through transmission. Kapag acquired, wait, magkaiba pala. Acquired is yung hindi siya transmission, ha? Yun yung nakukuha nyo about, ano, ito na lang. Kapag kunwari, nasobrahan ka sa antibiotics, may masisirang cell kapag nasobrahan sa antibiotics or madidisrupt yung normal flora. Normal flora is the normal bacteria ng katawan mo. Naubos na yung bacteria, kakainom mo ng antibiotics. So ngayon, itong mga normal bacteria na to is may ano sila, may normal function din sila and healthy function sa katawan natin. Pag naubos yung mga healthy bacteria natin, sino na ngayon ang lalaban sa mga pathogens din na kinakalaban ng mga ano. Usually din kasi may mga bacteria na kinakalaban din yung ibang pathogens na pupapasok sa katawan natin. Ngayon, kung wala tong mga normal flora natin, sino na ngayon yung lalaban sa mga pathogens? Di ba? Wala. So, magkakaroon ka ng sakit. That's what you call acquired pala. And then, communicable is yung natatransmit or spread like COVID, flu, TB, ayun, yung mga natatransmit. Itong acquired, pwedeng cancer, mga ganun. And then we have congenital. Ayun, sinabi ko ng congenital kanina, disorder which one is born with. So iatrogenic, we have what we call condition that cause from healthcare intervention. Ayun, sa acquired, patulad din pala siya ng acquired, itong si iatrogenic. Iatrogenic is from healthcare intervention. So ibig sabihin, itong acquired is, kunwari, ano ka ng, ayun, mga antibiotics nga. So, acquired. Pwede siyang acquired and then we have iatrogenic. Iatrogenic is yung nagkaroon ka ng sakit dahil sa isang medical procedure. Ano ba? Paano ba? Ayun, parang example din nung yung mali yung naibigay sa'yo na gamot, ganon. So, nag-cause siya ng disease sa katawan mo. Yun yung tinatawag nating iatrogenic. Basta any medical procedure na pinagawa sa'yo or ginawa sa'yo na nag-cause ng disease. Then we have sign, alam na niyo yan, abnormality seen and measured by people other than the patient. And then symptom, abnormality described by the patient. So sign is yung makikita natin or makikita ng pasyente. Symptom is yung ano yung ide-describe ng pasyente tayo, ano yung nararamdaman niya. And then syndrome is collection ng both sign and symptoms which tend to occur together. Okay, for part 2, we have structural and functional organization of the body. So, ngayon, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo na our body is nag-uumpisa sa chemical level. We have chemicals, atoms, and molecules. So, si atoms, gagawa siya ngayon, bubuo siya ngayon ng isang molecule. Our molecule is DNA. Pwedeng RNA, Ano pa ba? Molecule, sodium, potassium, the analytes. Yun yung mga chemical level natin. So, atom molecules ni sodium, potassium, fluoride, ganun. So, parang gagawa sila ngayon ng structure to form molecule. May DNA na ngayon. Ano pa ba? Sa DNA natin, it's composed of the molecules GUDP, guanine, uracil, ganon. Tapos, nakabuo na sila ngayon ng molecule. Ngayon, tong si DNA molecule, gagawa siya ngayon ng, magpaparami siya ngayon. Si chemical level, atoms, combine to form molecules. Na-combine sila, may molecules na. Ngayon, si molecules form organelles, such as the nucleus and mitochondria. So, meron tayong mga organelles ng cell. So, si organelles ng cell, si molecules, gagawa siya ng mga organelles ng cells. Ano ba yung mga organelles natin ng cells? Meron tayong nucleus, mitochondria, nucleolus, endoplasmic reticulum, ayun. So, gagawa sila noon hanggang sa makabuo sila ng isang cell. Example of cell is we have smooth muscle cells. Marami tayong kinds of cells. Pero itong sa example na to, smooth muscle cell. Ngayon, pag nakabuo na ng smooth muscle cell, pupunta na tayo sa tissue level. Similar cells, so magbubuo ulit ng madaming smooth muscle cells. Ngayon, si smooth muscle cells, magbubuo ulit siya ng smooth muscle tissue. Pag madaming nagkumpul-kumpul ang smooth muscle cell, makakabuo siya ng smooth muscle tissue. So, from cell, wait lang. From atom, bumuo sila ng molecules. May nagsama-sama ang molecules, different molecules, gumawa silang different organelles of the cell. Si different organelles of the cell is makakagawa ng isang buong cell. Ngayon, itong si cell, magkukumpul-kumpul si cell, gagawa siya ngayon ng isang tissue. So, similar cells and surrounding materials make up tissues. Ngayon, itong si tissues, bubuo ngayon siya ng isang organ level. Magsasama-sama si tissue level. Itong si tissue level pala is okay lang kahit hindi siya magkakaparehong cell. Meron tayong different kinds of tissues na pwedeng magsama-sama para bumuo ng organ cells. Kagaya nitong si urinary bladder. Si urinary bladder ay may smooth muscle cells. And the smooth muscle cells smooth muscle tissue ng urinary bladder natin is composed of what tissues? Meron tayong epithelial tissue, layers ng epithelial tissue sa pinakaloob. Susunod is the connective tissue, and then we have the smooth muscle tissue and the connective tissue. Tapos ngayon nakabuo sila ng urinary bladder. So different two or more tissue or one hanggang dumami ang tissue, makakabuo sila ng organ, ng isang organ. So, the different tissues combine to form organs such as the urinary bladder. Ngayon, si urinary bladder, uh, meron tayong urinary bladder, meron na ulit tayong organ. Kaya pinexplain ko kanina na urinary system is different group of organs na merong pare-parehong function. So, gumagawa sila ng urine. So, ngayon si urinary bladder, si smooth muscle din ulit nakagawa siya ng kidneys. Tapos, meron ulit cell tissue na nakagawa ng isang ureter. Ngayon, kung pagsasamahin si urinary bladder, si ureters and kidney, meron na tayong urinary system. So, ibig sabihin, the organ system level is the organs such as the urinary bladder and kidneys that make up an organ system. Ano pa ba yung ibang example ng organ system natin? We have circulatory system. Kapag si tissue nakabuo ng heart at tapos meron si isang structure din natin na si cell, the WBC, the RBC, or red blood cells or white blood cells. Ano pa? And then our vessel is also an organ or a structure or accessory organ. Ayun, kapag pinagsama-sama natin ang heart, the lungs, the blood vessels, the blood, ibig sabihin sila ay isang unit ng circulatory system. Then we have organism level. Ang nangyari na is different systems ng body. Naging organism na tayo. We are an organism. So organ systems make up an organism. So, ito yung different description ng levels of organization. So chemical level is the simplest level of structural ladder. Tandaan nyo, simplest level of structural ladder. So it's composed of atoms and molecules. So since may organ in chem kayo, what are the different molecules? Pwedeng lumabas sa exam. And then atom is the tiny building blocks of matter. Take note of this. Very common na yan. And then we have cell, which is the basic structural and functional units of organisms that are composed of chemicals. So, composed of chemicals, atoms, and molecules sa pag-combine naging cell level. And then, it is said to be the smallest independent unit of life and basic structural and functional units of organism. So, ngayon, itong si cell, similar cells, bumuo sila ng tissue cell na may parehong function. Then we have organ level tissues, different tissues, two or more tissue types not perform a specific function for the body. So nagjo-join together sila, kumpol sila to form an organ. Different organs, example natin here is heart, skin, kidney. Ayan, ito yung mga major body organs natin, isa-isa. We have the brain, spinal cord, carotid artery, larynx, trachea, esophagus, and so on. So, ito na yung organ system level natin. So, a group of organs that work together to accomplish a common purpose or function. We have 11 major organs of the system. So, ito yung sinasabi ko sa organ system na may pare-pareho silang common purpose. We have here the accessory organ ng integumentary system natin, which is the hair, and then the skin. So, anong ginagawa uh, ng, ng hair and skin na anong purpose nila na bakit sila pinag-isa sa iisang system. So, integumentary system provides protection. Hair protects our skin layers sa head natin. Regulates temperature. It does really. Hair and skin regulates temperature. It prevents water loss and helps produce vitamin D. Consists of skin, hair, nails, and sweat glands. So, hair, mga, what's that term? Basta yun, hair. Yan. So, integumentary system. Meron din this case. Hair, nails are not, not organs. Sweat glands can be an accessory organ. Then we have here skeletal system. Itong mga to. Guys, memorization, hair, skin, pwedeng lumabas sa choices, ganon. Pare, ito. Lalabas, ang question lang is it provides protection, regulates temperature, prevents water loss, mga ganon. Tapos nakalagay sa sa choices is hair, A, hair, B, skin, C, ribs, tapos D, skull, E, both A and B, ganun. So, you really need to assess kung ano. So, always choose the right answer. Kung ano yung pinaka-right na answer. Kasi meron, ano yan eh, malilito kayo, meron sa board exam na right answer naman, pero hindi naman siya yung pinaka-right answer. It really needs to be specific and analyze the questions well. And also, take note, bago kayo mag-start ng exam, is basahin nyo muna yung mga directions. Okay? Ayan, so I would like you to read the common purposes of this different organ system and then familiarize yourself with the different organs na kasali sa organ system. Okay? Ayan. So we have the lymphatic system. Ayan. Ito yung mga pag-aaralan natin. So ngayong prelim, ang matatakol natin is itong tatlo. Then, as we go on through midterms, meron tayong lymphatic system, respiratory system, digestive system, urinary system, female reproductive system, male reproductive system, and so on. Then, we have the organism level. Ayan. So, nabubuo na siya. Itong different ano daw, buo na siya. So, as one na, ginawang unit na si integument, isang unit si integumentary system, skeletal system, muscular system. Nakabuo tayo ng isang organism, which is the human organism. So, any living thing that is considered as a whole, whether composed of one cell. So, one cell natin na organism, living organism is living hindi siya non-living. So, organism, meron tayong mga organism na one cell lang, like amoeba, and then paramecium, Chlamydomonas, and Euglena. Mostly, bacteria ang one cell. Ang mga parasites, one cell sila, nagpo-produce sila ng egg. So, nagpa-proliferate din yung mga cells nila to form a parasite. So, ang mostly sa mga parasites, ang infectious stage ng life nila is the egg or the trophozoites, mga ganun. So, one cell composed of one cell are bacterium. So kapag trillion of human cells is human. So organism level is the highest level of structural organization. Take note of that. Highest. To conclude, the human organism is a network of organ systems all mutually dependent on one another. So lahat ng organ system na to is nagne-depend sa isa't isa para maka-function as a whole. Okay? Depend sila. Hindi porket urinary system lang yan, eh bahala na siya sa ginagawa niya. Hindi ganun. May may ano sila, related yung ginagawa ng urinary system sa ibang body parts din ng katawan. You will soon know about this as we go on through our different topics pa. Sa masusunod na topics natin. Then part 3, the characteristics. I'm sorry, that's characteristics. Characteristics of the living human organism. So what are the essential characteristics of life or living human organism? So so the body can be studied at 6 levels of organization. I think hindi lang to 6. Ayan, hindi lang siya 6 pala. So, ito na lang pala, essential characteristics of life or living human organism. So, first, organization or movement. From the word organization, organized. So, organized, nakita nyo naman, di ba? Organized yung katawan natin from organs to organs, organ systems to organ systems. Na gano'n, yung organized siya in a way na kung nasa ang part siya, kung ano yung mga magkakalapit na organs dapat para maayos yung function nila, mga ganun. So, specific interrelationship among the parts of an organ and how those parts interact to perform specific function. So, cells are composed of example nito, cells are composed of highly specialized organs. So, ngayon, parati kong sinasabi kanina pa na ang cell is may different specialized organs. Ngayon, yung mga organs na yun is syempre, may kanya-kanya silang function. Pero, ang function na yun is relatable siya sa ibang function din ng ibang organelles. Ngayon, kung isang organelle ng cell is may mali, there's a dysfunction of certain organelle. Kunwari lalo na si nucleus. Kapag may nangyaring pangit kay nucleus, pangit yung function niya, ang mangyayari, yung mga function na ipapadala niya or yung mga uh, ginagawa niya is mako-communicate sa ibang cells. Ngayon, ang mangyayari is lahat na ngayon ng organelles is magkakaroon ng mali dahil sa kagagawa ni nucleus na may mali siya. So, it's a domino effect. May mali kay nucleus, may mali na rin kay mitochondria, kay endoplasmic reticulum, and every organelles ng cell. Ngayon, kung lahat sila may dysfunction na, syempre as a whole, yung cell, dysfunctional na siya, abnormal na siya. Ngayon, si cell, ayaw na niya kasi puro pangit din naman yung ginagawa niya. Mag-aano siya, apoptosis, cell death na, mamamatay na siya. Kasi paano din naman mabubuhay ang isang cell kung pangit ang function niya, ang bumubuhay sa kanya yung organelles niya. Okay? Then we have metabolism. Metabolism is the ability to use the energy to perform vital functions. So, energy from food. Tulad ng sinabi ko, glucose is the source of energy ng katawan natin, specifically sa cell. So, yun nga, may metabolize yung metabolites natin. So, the metabolite glucose, si sugar na intake mo. So, i-breakdown siya ng pancreas, i-deliver siya ni insulin sa different parts of the body. I-store niya ngayon yung sobrang glucose kay liver in the form of glycogen. Ganun. So, we have metabolism refers to all the chemical reactions taking place in the cell and internal environment of an organism. Doon din pumapasok yung mga different synthesis. Meron tayong Krebs cycle, ATP synthesis, that's metabolism. So, meron tayong dalawang phases ng metabolism. We have catabolism and anabolism. Catabolism, which catabol means throwing down, ism means condition. So, it's the condition na nagbe-breakdown ng complex or from big, bine-breakdown niya, dinudurog niya to produce an energy. Ang common function talaga ng metabolism is to produce energy. Ano pa man yan, kahit catabolism man yan or anabolism lang yan, ang purpose niya is to produce an energy. So we have your anabolism, anabol, which means raising up, ism means condition. So it's building up naman daw from smaller to big. So binubuo niya. Kung si catabolism, dinudurog niya, binibreakdown niya, or binagawa niyang pinapaliit niya, anabolism makes it big, binubuo niya. Take note of that ha. Catabolism, anabolism. Ganito na lang. Para mas maintindihan niyo. Ayan, so, catabolism, ana. Paano ba? Wag na pala. Nonsense. O basta memorize nyo na lang ang catabolism and anabolism. Catabolism is to break down. Anabolism is to break down. Catabolism is to break down. Anabolism is to building up. Break down, building up. Next slide. Responsiveness or irritability. Inulit-ulit ko kanina, stimuli, 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 stimulate. Ability to sense changes or the stimuli in the environment and then react to them or to adjust from changes to help stabilization or homeostasis. So ano yung magiging response ng katawan mo for these certain changes para maging normal siya, para hindi mag-abnormal yung katawan mo. Ito pa ulit-ulitin ko din mamaya. Pag mainit yung environment mo, syempre iinit din yung katawan mo. Ngayon hindi pwedeng parating mainit ang katawan, mag-e-exceed ang katawan ng normal, mag-e-exceed ang ang body temperature mo sa normal. Dapat parating na sa normal temperature ang katawan mo kasi pwedeng mag-cause ng cell death ang too high na temperature at too low na temperature. So kailangan ang gagawin ng katawan niya is nakatawan mo, ng function ng katawan mo is to homeostasis. And what is homeostasis? Mas malalaman natin mamaya yan. Homeostasis is in-stabilize niya yung katawan mo. So, kailangan nasa normal state lang siya. Tutulungan nga yung katawan mo na nasa normal state lang siya. Kahit na may nangyayari na sobrang init or sobrang lamig. Then we have growth. Growth can be an increase in cell size or increase in body size. Take note, growth is an increase in cell size or an increase in body size, which produces an overall enlargement of all or part of an organism. And then we have development, includes changes of an organism undergoes through time, beginning with fertilization and ending at death. It involves growth, but also involves differentiation and morphogenesis. So kapag tinanong, what development is growth is part ng development, but growth is not paano ba? Growth is part of development, but development is not part of growth. So it involves growth, development and involves growth, differentiation, and morphogenesis. Kasi baka mamaya differentiation and morphogenesis lang yung manote nyo. So, meron din tayong differentiation and morphogenesis. So, what's differentiation and morphogenesis? So, differentiation, it involves changes in cells structure and function from an immature generalized state to a mature specialized state. So, differentiation, nabanggit ko kanina, differentiation ng cell, yun yung sinasabi kong pag immature, this certain cell is still immature, may certain cell na lang. So, may isang cell, ayan, immature cell daw yan. Ayan, si immature cell, magge-generate ngayon ng DNA. Ngayon si DNA ang, dito si nucleus. Si DNA is nabubuo kay nucleus. Kaya si nucleus, siya yung gagawa ng magiging function ng cell. Ngayon, si cell, pwede siyang maging, sa WBC, pwede siyang maging T-cell and B-cell. WBC, kunyari T and B cell. Si T and B cell, ito na yung ano na siya, pa-mature na siya na cell. So, So, si immature cell, itong si immature cell, hindi pa siya sure kung ano yung magiging function niya. Ngayon, habang nagde-differentiate siya, aalamin ngayon niya kung para saan siya, kung ano magiging function niya. So, ano magiging different function niya? Pwede ba siyang maging T cell? At pwede ba siyang maging B cell? That's called differentiation. And this T and B cell, may different function sila. Okay? And then we have morphogenesis. Parang sinabi ko yung genesis. Parang pathogenesis. So, morphogenesis, the change in shape of tissues or organs and the entire organism. So, morphogenesis, changes. And then we have here reproduction of offspring. So, from one organism to another organism and can occur on a cellular or organism level. So, from cellular reproduction of cellular, RBC na magpaproduce ulit ng another RBC. Differentiation is different ha. Sa WBC, nag-occur si differentiation. So, from single cell na naging T cell, pwede siyang maging ilagay sa gawing T cell or pwede siyang gawing B cell. Kaya sinasabi ko sa inyo na merong different types of WBC. WBC, meron tayong, sulat ko ulit since ibibigay ko din to sa ibang set. Meron tayong neutrophils. Neutrophil, lymphocyte, eosinophil, 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 ano pa ba? Monocyte, and basophil. Ayan. So, mayroon tayong different type ng WBC. Ngayon, madi-differentiate siya kung saan, paano ba siya. Si DNA ngayon gumawa ng ano niya, nag-transcribe siya ng ano, nag-graph siya ng magiging function siya. Ikaw, itong cell, dapat maging ano ka, lalabanan mo ngayon. So, ano nga pala? So, WBC, sila ang immunity cells natin. Sila yung lumalaban sa mga pathogens or mga infection. So, ngayon, si neutrophil, ikaw gagawa ka dapat ng ano, ikaw magiging ano, lalabanan mo ngayon ang bacteria. So kung lalabanan niya ang bacteria, magiging neutrophil dapat siya. Lalabanan mo ang virus, sasabihin niya sa isang cell, magiging lymphocyte siya. Ngayon sa single cell, gagawa siya ngayon, madi-differentiate siya into different types of WBC na may different function. Ayan. So, si neutrophil, lalabanan niya ang bacteria, lymphocyte, lalabanan niya ang virus. Also, monocyte, pwede niyang labanan ang virus or bacteria. And then, we have eosinophil na nilalabanan niya yung parasite. We have excretion from the word excreta. The process of removing excreta or wastes from the body. Ayun, ito na yung mga wastes natin. May mga toxic waste na kasama na dyan. So, urine, stool, phlegm, and etc. Ayan. So for survival needs, our cells or our body needs carbohydrates, which is take note, carbohydrate is the major energy providing fuel for the body. Na-take up nyo na siguro to sa in org chem nyo. And then we have fats that provides reserve fuel. Carbohydrate pala is ano ha? Alam nyo naman siguro, sugar is a carbohydrate. And then we have fats that provides reserve fuel. And then oxygen, minerals and vitamins from fruits and veggies. And then we have water and then proteins. Yun yung mga kailangan ng cell natin. But also, kung meron kailangan ng cell natin, kailangan din natin ng katawan natin. Kasi ang katawan natin is made up of a small unit of living organism, the cell. Part 4, malapit na tayo. We have homeostasis. Homeostasis is the maintenance of variable around an ideal value or set point. This is the, ako na sa, sa body temperature, this is the ideal range. Range ito, set point ito. Set point is parang sa statistics, mode, median, mean. So kung si ano si si set point is mean, ito is magiging ano ba ang wait lang. Hindi ako ano sa statistics. I think mode. O basta range siya. Kung ano yung magiging normal range is from 98.4 degrees Celsius to 98.8 degrees Fahrenheit pala. Sorry, it's not Celsius. So 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit to 98.8 degrees Fahrenheit ang normal range. And then the set point or the mean must be nag-iisang value lang siya. Kung ano talaga yung preferred value na dapat i-maintain. Sa ranges naman is kung so ano yung higher limit at lower limit na pwedeng tanggapin as normal. So the value of the variable fluctuates around the set point to establish a normal range of values. So what is homeostasis? Ulit. So the body's ability to maintain relatively stable internal conditions even though the outside world is continuously changing. So it literally means unchanging. Kahit na nagbabago ang external factors sa katawan natin, dapat hindi mag-change ang internal conditions or ang internal function ng katawan natin. So the existence and maintenance of balance. So babalansehin niya ngayon ang ang internal from external para balance din or maging normal state yung katawan natin. So homeo means sameness and stasis means standstill. So it indicates dynamic state of equilibrium, state of equalness, equilibrium, or a balance in which internal conditions change and vary but always within relatively normal values or within relatively narrow limits. So we have terms like variables. So variables, the body conditions that may change their value. Variables sa yung mga number or pwede ding qualitative na um, nag-change ng value. Yung temperature natin, that's a value that's a variable na nag-change. We also have, lalo na sa atin, yung mga analyte, yung sodium, potassium, chloride, ionized calcium, nag-change din ng values yung mga yan. Then we have homeostatic mechanism. We have two homeostatic mechanism, like a negative feedback and positive feedback, which I will discuss it later. So homeostatic mechanism is to maintain the body temperature near an ideal normal value. It's not just the body temperature, any other values din. So maintaining the body normal values to an ideal normal value. Range pala to. So maintain the body's value range near an ideal normal value. A normal value parang set point. So parang range. Ganun. So example, sweating and shivering. So sweating, homeostatic mechanism, ano ko na lang yan. Itong gagawin kong example sa negative feedback and positive feedback. So set point, as I have said, ang set point natin is this one. Nag-iisang value lang siya. Tapos ito ang range. Okay? Itong 98.4 to 98.8. That's the normal range. And the normal set point is the nag-iisang normal na value na katanggap mo. So, normal values, ay nagsasabi ko, normal values, that's acceptable range of values on which homeostasis can still be met. So, ang normal range natin, normal values natin is the 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit to 98.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So, ito na tayo sa components ng homeostatic mechanism. Mayroon tayong mga components, tatlo. The major or main feedback mechanism components. We have the receptor, the control center, and the effector. So receptor is a type of sensor that monitors and responds to changes in the environment. It sends input to the control center in afferent way. And then we have control center. It receives, then determines the appropriate response. Of course, action, it will send the output in afferent pathway. And then we have effector, which provides the means for the control center's response to the stimulus, receives the output from control center, and produces a response or effect that changes the control condition. So, ito lang siya. Ang ibig sabihin lang nun, ito siya. So, kunwari, itong variable na to, itong pantay na to, variable, that's the, kunwari, ito yung value na pwedeng tumaas at saka bumaba. So, in homeostasis, ganitong ano siya, balance siya, kasi nga homeostasis is balance. But if there's an imbalance, yung variable is pwedeng tumaas at pwede ding bumaba. Kapag pag ang imbalance is pataas, may stimulus na nag-cause ng imbalance, tumaas. So, produces change in variable. Ngayon, itong si receptor, masisense niya si stimulus na magre-react siya ngayon. So, may na-detect si stimulus. So, change detected by receptor. Ito si receptor, isa siyang, ano pa, sensitive siya. So, na-sense niya ngayon na may stimulus. Ngayon, itong si sensor, since sensor siya, isa siyang sensitive, nasi-sense niya, sumbongero din siya. So, magsusumbok siya. May nangyari, ganito, sasabihin niya, magsasend siya ng information ngayon kay control center. Ngayon, sa control center, ang gagawin ni control center, syempre, from the word control, gagawa siya ngayon ng graph kung anong pwedeng gawin para bumalik sa normal para maging normal or bumalik sa homeostasis. So, si control center magdadraft siya. Ngayon, ang gagawin niya, hindi siya ang gagalaw para ayusin yon. Ngayon, magsasend siya ng message kay effector. So, information sent along efferent. So, sasabihin niya, okay, may nangyaring ganito. Gumawa ka ng ganito para maging maayos. Ngayon, si effector, kung si control center ay taga-utos, si effector ay utusan. Siya ang gagawa ngayon ng ginawang graph ni control center kung ano dapat yung mangyayari. So, si effector ngayon, siya ang magre-respond dun sa nangyari, dun sa may imbalance. So, response of effector feeds back to influence magnitude of stimulus and returns variable to homeostasis. Kaya si effector, babalik na sa homeostasis. Gagawin ni effector is, ibabalik niya sa normal yung value. Ayan. So, meron tayong dalawang homeostatic control mechanism. We have the negative feedback mechanism and the positive feedback mechanism. So, let's discuss about negative feedback mechanism. So, negative feedback mechanism, it regulates most of the body system to maintain homeostasis. Guys, take note, pwede kong ibigay as an essay ang negative feedback mechanism or positive feedback mechanism. So, pwede ko kayong bigyan ng kunwari, sabihin ko, make a diagram and explain homeostatic mechanism, the two homeostatic mechanism, ganon. So, negative feedback mechanism, it regulates most of the body system to maintain homeostasis. So, negative literally means any deviation from the set point is resisted or made smaller. So, ibig sabihin, from the negative negative, so ibig sabihin negative, babawasan niya ngayon yung ginagawa ng stimulus para bumalik sa normal. So, the net effect of the response to the stimulus is to either shut off. So, pwede niyang i-shut off or pwede niyang i-reduce ang original stimulus, yung intensity ng stimulus. Yung mismong stimulus, pwede niyang i-shut off ang mismong stimulus or pwede niyang i-reduce ang intensity or ang function ng stimulus or ang effect ng stimulus. So, reverse a change in variable. Ngayon, kailangan yung variable ay ma-reverse. So, kailangan bumalik siya sa dating value. So, ito siya. Ganito yung mangyayari sa positive feedback. So, sa body temperature as an example. So, receptors itong 1. Receptors monitor body temperature. So, paano ba? Ito siya, yung pinaka-main natin. So, receptor. Sabi ko, si receptor ay, ito, mamaya na lang balikan natin. Explain ko muna yung example. So, ito, si receptor na monitor niya yung body temperature, mainit sa labas, na-sense ng receptor ni skin na umiinit na din yung katawan dahil sa mainit na climate or mainit na weather. Ngayon, si receptor na sense niya, magsusumbong siya ngayon kay brain. Brain is our, take note, control system natin si brain. Kahit sa ibang different parts ng body, siya ang pinaka-control system natin. So, ngayon, magsusumbong siya kay brain. Ngayon, si brain na control system is gagawa siya ng information ngayon kay our draft ngayon na kung ano yung gagawin niya. Gagawa siya ng plan kung ano yung ipapagawa niya kay effector para bumalik sa normal temperature. So ngayon si control center, magpapadala siya kay sweat gland ng information na, oy, masyadong mainit, gumawa ka ng ganito para lumamig, para bumalik sa normal. Si sweat gland, magpaproduce siya ngayon ng sweat para ibalik sa normal temperature yung katawan. Okay, so si effector is the sweat gland. Ayan. So, ito yung explanation. So, receptors monitor the value of a variable. In this case, receptors in the skin monitor body temperature. Dito sa second, information about the value of the variable is sent to a control center. In this case, nerves send information to the part of the brain responsible for regulating body temperature. And then the control center compares the value of the variable against the set point. If a response is necessary, ayan, so nag-send siya ng mataas daw yung temperature. So gagawa siya ng response that is necessary to maintain homeostasis. The control center causes an effector to causes an effector to respond. In this case, nerves send information to the sweat gland. So from si 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 Sin is uutusan niya ngayon hindi, magpapadala siya through nerve cells papunta kay sweat gland. So si nerve cells may dala siyang message. Wait lang. So parang anong tawag na? Mailman ngayon si nerve cells. Si nerve cells, mailman siya, magbibigay siya ng message kay sweat gland. Si sweat gland ngayon, siya ang magiging utusan. Siya yung inutusan na gagawa ng way para bumalik sa normal yung body temperature. Ayan. So, an effector produces a response that maintains homeostasis. In this case, stimulating sweat glands lowers body temperature. So, that's the way yan yung way na minemaintain ng katawan ang homeostasis in the process of maintaining body temperature. So that's one example of negative mechanism. So bakit siya sinabing negative mechanism? So ang nangyari is binawasan niya ngayon. What's the stimulus? 'Di ba? Yung temperature. Si temperature ng stimulus, anong gagawin kay stimulus? Tumaas siya. So kailangan niyang pababain na bumalik sa normal values. Kaya siya tinawag na negative feedback. So you can shut by shutting off or binabawasan to make it small. So ang binabawasan is yung stimulus natin na temperature. So kailangan bawasan si temperature, kaya si temperature para bumalik sa stable condition through homeostasis. Ayan siya. Ito pa yung other examples pala. Ayan. So, body temperature na nasa normal. So, homeostasis disturbed, body temperature increases, the receptors and control centers. So, control centers in the brain increase stimulation of sweat glands and relax blood vessels in the skin. So, nire-relax niya din yung blood vessels ng skin kasi in the skin when the receptors detect increase in body temperature. Kasi ano nga, kapag uh, ay, sorry. Ayan. So, parang I think bali ako ng example dito last time. Kasi, isa din pala na kinokos ng receptor na, I mean, ng control ses, bleh. Control center is yung, the constriction and what, um, so, may tinatawag tayong constriction at dilation ng blood vessel. So, constriction is yung butas ng, kasi di ba blood vessel, so para siyang, isipin nyo, para siyang tube or uh, hose. Yung hose na kinagamit kapag sa tubig, dadaloy ng tubig from gripo, ganun. Ganun ang vessels natin. So, kung magko-constrict siya, ibig sabihin, liliit yung butas niya. Therefore, bababa ang ano, ang flow ng blood. And then for dilation is lalaki yung butas. So ibig sabihin, mabilis ang flow ng blood. So dito naman kapag ano daw, mataas masyado yung temperature. Ang gagawin sa, ano, ang iuutos ng, I mean, ang brain is stimulate niya ngayon ng blood vessels to constrict. Ay, hindi. To dilate. Ire-relax niya ngayon yung blood vessels niyo. Kasi kapag ang blood vessels nag-relax, it will dilate. Kapag ang ang blood vessels ay under pressure is ano siya, mag-constrict siya. Kasi hindi pwedeng may mini-maintain ang katawan sa pag-flow ng blood o blood pressure. May mini-maintain, di ba? Kailangan kapag masyadong mataas ang blood pressure, um, dinadilate ay wait lang. Kinoconstrict ang blood vessels para hindi masyadong mabilis ang pag-flow ng blood. Okay? So dito naman kay body temperature, kapag mataas ang temperature, ang gagawin ngayon ni control center is bababaan niya yung blood pressure. Kasi blood pressure, pag ang blood pressure ibig sabihin kasama doon yung pag-pump ng blood. Pag ang blood ay ang heart nag-pump ng mabilis, tataas talaga ang temperature mo kasi your internal organs are working hard. So parang sa pag-exercise din, 'di ba, you sweat or napapagod ka or uh, ang pangalan nito, umiinit yung katawan mo, so nagsisweat ka. O ganun din yon. So parang pag nagpa-pump ng mabilis yung heart mo kasi kailangan niyang i-push yung blood para mag-flow. Eh di ba kapag constricted ang blood, pag constricted ang blood, bibilis yung pag-pump ng heart mo kasi ipupush niya talaga masakip nga yung dadaluyan ng blood. So, kailangan ng heart mo na mag-pump para may mag-push dun sa blood na mag-flow. Pero pag dilated ang blood mo, magno-normalize or bababa ang blood pressure mo kasi nga, dilated na yung blood vessels mo. Ibig sabihin, maluwag yung dadaluyan niya. Hindi niya na kailangan ng ng push or pressure para mag-flow yung blood. I hope you got it. So, pag mataas yung temperature mo, magre-relax ang vein, magdadilate siya. So, normal lang ang blood temperature mo. Hindi masyadong magpa-pump ang blood mo, hindi masyadong magpa-pump ang heart mo ng blood. Therefore, stable lang siya. Normal lang na pump ng blood, so hindi siya magpapagod. So, ibig sabihin, ibabalik niya, slow yung pag-pump ng blood mo. So, ibig sabihin, pag-pump ng heart mo sa blood. So, ibig sabihin, hindi siya mag-overwork. So, ayun, hindi siya ngayon mapapagod. So, hindi iinit yung katawan mo. Instead, i-stabilize niya lang. So, nasa normal state lang siya. Hindi na siya dadagdag sa pag-init ng katawan mo. Yan yung ibig kong sabihin. Kapag constriction and dilation. So, kapag mataas ang blood temperature, ano ang response ng natin, ng brain natin or ng control center, ano yung magiging draft niya, ano yung magiging course of action na ita-draft niya is the stimulation ng sweat glands and relaxation of blood vessels. Relaxation means dilation ng blood vessels natin. So ngayon, yung draft na ginawa ni control center, ipapadala niya ngayon kay effector. Effector na ngayon ang maggagawa si effector na ngayon ang gagawa ng action. Siya na ang in action, siya na yung utusan. So, si effector, ang gagawin ni effector is si sweat glands, effectors ay si sweat gland. Ang magiging effector natin si sweat gland. So, si sweat gland, magpo-produce siya ng sweat. Tapos, si blood vessel as a as effector is, idadilate niya ngayon yung skin blood vessels. Okay? So, kapag nangyari yun, ayun na, body temperature decreases. So, mare-restore na ang normal value. Ayun naman, kapag ang blood temperature is, another example naman ng negative feedback is kapag tumaas pag bumaba ah, ang pangalan nito, pag bumaba wait lang, parang pareho lang din to. Decrease body temperature. Ito pala. Dito pala tayo. Ito yung pataas. Ito yung pataas. So, this is I think this is positive. Itong part lang na to, itong blue is positive feedback mechanism. This one is the positive feedback mechanism kasi ang ginagawa niya is yung stimulus is pinapataas niya. So this is not just a negative feedback component. Ano siya dapat? Ah, negative feedback control. So ano siya? Itong negative feedback, itong blue, and then itong pink is the positive feedback. So another example ng positive feedback. First, let's define positive feedback muna. Ayan. So positive feedback mechanism is the deviation from the set point becomes greater. So implies that when a value deviates from the normal, the system response is to make it greater. So at times, this type of response is required to achieve homeostasis, increases the original disturbance stimulus, and to push the variable further from its original value, strengthen it, or to enforce a change. So ayun siya. So kung si negative feedback mechanism is babawasan niya or i-stop niya, si positive feedback naman is dadagdagan niya para bumalik sa normal state. Ngayon, ito yung sinasabi kong pag sa body temperature, kapag binabalik sa body temperature, ayan. Kapag ang temperature is bumaba, ang stimulus, the control center in the brain decreases stimulation of sweat glands and constrict blood vessels in the skin when the receptors detect decreased body temperature. So, ang gagawin ngayon ni, nagsumbong na ngayon si stimulus, si receptor na may stimulus na mababa ang, sa shivering to ha, example ng homeostatic mechanism. So, control center, si brain, i-decrease niya ngayon stimulation ng sweat gland. Syempre, hindi na kailangan kasi malamig na nga yung temperature ng katawan. So, hindi na kailangan ng sweat glands. And then, uutusan niya na naman si effector na mag-constrict naman. Yung sinabi ko kanina, dilation kay negative and then kay positive is magko-constrict yung blood. So, ang kailangan kasi ng temperature ay ng heart mo is magpump ng blood para pagpawisan ka. So, blood vessels in the skin when receptors detect decrease body, I mean para mapagod ka, para uminit yung katawan mo. Pwede ding pagpawisan. So, vessels in the skin when receptors detect decreased body temperature. The effectors, ang mangyayari is, yung sweat gland as effector is, isisis niya ang sweat production. So, walang magiging sweat production. Pwedeng bababa or none at all. And then, the skin constrict, the skin blood vessels constrict, and then skeletal muscle, magko-contract siya. So, ibig sabihin kasi, bumibilis yung blood pressure or yung pag-pump yung heart, bibilis yung heart sa pag-pump ng blood mo kasi nga constricted yung blood vessels mo, sumikip siya. So, kailangan ng kailangan ng pressure para mag-flow yung dugo. So, ayun. So, mag-overwork or mag-work ng mabilis yung heart mo para mag-pump ng blood, para mag-flow si blood. So, ibig sabihin, kung mabilis yun, syempre si heart mo, mabilis yung pag-flow. Ibig sabihin, maapektuhan din yung skeletal muscle mo na nagko-contract. Kaya yung skeletal muscle na yun is, nagkakos siya ng shivering. Okay, nagsishiver. Okay? Pag malamig. So, shivering is also an effect of a way of homeostasis para ibalik sa normal ang katawan. And another thing we have here, stimulus raising blood glucose. Parang naano ko na to. Explain ko na to.